Greetings and salutations. Welcome to Knife Chats with Tobias. Okay, before I even begin talking about this knife, let me get something out of the way here. And that is I need to apologize to Smoky Mountain Knife Works and the good folks there, and also the folks at Ryder, because, well, quite frankly, I made a bit of an idiot of myself online because I was complaining that this knife wasn't getting here fast enough. They had announced the knife a while back, and something happened. Supply chain got screwed up, and the knife just wasn't getting here. Now, it's not like a company is going to go out of the way to piss people off and say, hey, we got a new knife, and then not bring it out. It does happen, and it happens with other companies other than Smoky Mountain Knife Works, and it happens with other brands of knives other than Rough Ryder or Rough Ryder Reserve. And basically, I lost patience and made an idiot of myself. So I apologize to Smoky Mountain Knife Works for having a rant over there on SMKW Army, as well as my own webpage here. I had the same rant here. Now, I did not say specifically it was about this knife, but most people who follow the channel and most people who follow me on SMKW Army know it was about this knife because I really, really wanted this knife. So I let emotions get in the way of logic, you know, and for that, I'm sorry. But with that out of the way now, let's talk about a really cool knife, and a knife that was definitely worth the wait. And well, now I kind of understand why I was also upset, but at the same time, I really needed to just cool my jets and wait, because it's really a cool knife, and I'm happy I got it. In any case, let's talk about this knife instead of my bad behavior. Like I said, this is the RRR025 Sabacc. Now, as for the name, where does the name come from? For those not familiar, this fellow named George Lucas wrote this space opera called Star Wars. And in Star Wars, they have this game that is the most popular card game throughout the galaxy, and that game is called Sabacc. And it's basically kind of a mix between blackjack and poker. So it's a gambling game. And it was while playing Sabacc that Han Solo won the Millennium Falcon off of Lando Calrissian. And that's where the name of the knife comes from a card game in Star Wars. Is that fitting? Well, in some ways, very much so. And that what you have here is a modern take on a very old world pattern. This knife, according to Brian Wilhoit, they found this pattern of knife in a 100-year-old catalog at Smoky Mountain Knife Works. Now, if you're familiar with Star Wars, most of the weapons in Star Wars are old World War I and World War II weapons. So it's kind of fitting that the Sabacc is like an old world knife, something that's 100 years old, that has been modernized for a new generation. And that's what you have in the Sabacc. It is a new take on a very old knife. And by new take, what I'm talking about is just the way that the knife is actually constructed, taking advantages of computers, using washers instead of relying on the brass liners, things of that nature. And so that's really the difference here. You're looking at yes, it's traditional, but it is modern traditional, or a modern slip joint. By traditional, what most people refer to as a slip joint. It's a slip joint knife, true, but it's a modern constructed slip joint. And that's where it differs from like Case and GEC. Case and GEC are still using older techniques to put the knife together. GEC does mention that they're using some modern methods in their construction, but they're still relying on a lot of the old tooling and old methods of pinning and everything else. These are, I know they say built by hand, but there's a lot more computer work involved in making these knives than the other Rough Riders and stuff. So I would compare these closer to like a Brother or a Lion Steel or a Jack Wolf. But let's actually talk a little bit about this design or the look of this knife, because like I mentioned, it is an old world style looking knife, and actually it resembles a knife that was used in Austria around 1880, 1890 for hunting. It's a folding hunting knife from around Austria. But it does also resemble several other knives, and most people have mentioned, Navaja, and you can see a Navaja here, or a Laguille, and you see the Laguille here. Now this is not a true Laguille, even though it's clearly stamped Laguille, but it looks just like a Laguille. The difference is this is not made in Laguille, France, or Thiers, France, so the people who make Laguille knives would say no. But you can see the shape of the Laguille there, and you notice it's got the wide blade there, partly because of the way the shape of the handle is here. They also have the B there, and they also have a little latch here that helps it lock into the back of the B here to give a little bit of extra hold on the blade there. Now the Navaja, you can see the shape there of the horn, the powder horn, and at first glance it looks like the Navaja's powder horn bends more than this one, but actually they bend about the same. Let's get the two open here. Oh well, there goes the Rough Rider Reserve thing. See the shape there and where it lands at, and if we turn it around, you see really not much of a difference in where the handle ends on the new Sabacc. The difference is the way the shape of the handle goes here and the way it narrows so much. Some people will like this better. This also feels good. I just like the handle that is bent. That's why I like the powder horns on any of the toothpicks. The fact that the bends there, it just feels good in the hand for me. And this one has that good bend going on there. You also see the crown up on top here. I did not show this on the Navaja. The Navaja also locks. It's got a latch here that holds the blade in place and releases. And you notice it has a bit of a crown going there too. This has a bit of a crown in the Laguille too. Modern toothpicks, they do not have the crown. They do have the bend a little bit in the back, a little bit of a sway here, but they do not sway in the front here. So, but the Austrian knife had a crown that looks almost identical to that, and that helps keep your hand away from the blade. That's part of why the crown is there. It is acting a little bit as a a cross guard. However, this knife is just a slip joint. There is no lock on it at all. Hopefully they'll come out with one with a back lock. I'd love it with a back lock. But in any case, and the blade has a pull that is around 4, maybe 5. On a good day it might be 5, but it's really closer to a 4. Good snap in place and everything. And you can see here that you can rock it with your thumb. You can actually close it all the way around if you're careful. You can actually grab the blade here and flick it open. So pinch the blade and flick it down and it will open. That's how strong the pull is. It's not a very strong pull at all. Now that's going to be an issue with some people, not an issue with me. Not at all an issue with me. I'm very familiar with the pull on most toothpicks, and most toothpicks do not have a strong pull. this pull is about on par with most of the toothpicks that I own. And if you're somebody who likes a really strong pull on a knife, this probably is not the knife for you. For me, it's not an issue. I'm not planning on stabbing with it. And when you cut with these knives, you usually will cut like so, or like so. And you're always pressing down into something. I've been using this knife for 5 days. I've been using slip joints for the better part of 50 odd years or so. The only time I have had a blade accidentally close on me is because I was doing something stupid with a slip joint. These are not knives that you would poke with. I'm warning you now. The half stop might save you, because it is a really good half stop and it pops to it and it does not keep going. So that might save you a little bit. Notice the good snap going on there. But if you notice, you do have a little play there. So the blade, unlike on a Navaja and also on Laguiles, the blade is not resting on the back spring. It's typical for on a Laguile or a Navaja. Quite often you will have the blade rest on the back spring, so when it closes it actually hits the back spring. But they do have a little lock, whatever they call it, the pin down there to stop the blade from hitting the back spring. Also, if you notice here, earlier Rough Rider Reserve knives had a pinned shield. As far as I can tell, this one is not pinned. You see the bomb shield there and the wonderful burgundy micarta. But if you look down there, you do not see a pin coming all the way through. So I don't believe the pin is, or the shield is pinned. If it is just pinned into the micarta. It does not pass all the way into the, or all the way through the brass liner. That might be a problem for some people. I don't have that as an issue. Especially when you see this. Look at how clean that is all the way down. There is not a gap anywhere. Nowhere. No gapping anywhere. Open the knife up. No gap. There's where you see the spring moving. But there is absolutely no gap. The tolerance is really, really tight. They've done an excellent job getting that back spring in place, and obviously an excellent job with the micarta. It is as smooth as can be there, and it's a beautiful shade of burgundy micarta there. And then you got a nickel silver spacer here, and then a piece of black micarta down here, and then nickel silver pens. Triple ringed crown and a triple ring pommel down here, and you do have more or less a powder horn. It's just not a very sharp powder horn. All the micarta is penned nicely. I'm not sure exactly why they did not do the burgundy all the way down and had a little black accent here. I would have preferred the burgundy to go all the way. Or actually what I would have preferred is a longer pommel coming all the way down to meet the burgundy. But I have my suspicions about this. I think this was done because you have some plans for this knife in the future. And I would love to see this accent down here done with something else. Could you imagine, so for instance, if this were in a wonderful black wood or something, and then this was a piece of mother of pearl down here or something like that. So they might have some plans on doing some other accents down there. Maybe a wonderful wood with turquoise down here or something like that. All in all though, it's just a beautiful knife. I'm really happy with it. Got the T2 steel. Notice the swedge. The swedge is done very nicely. The blade is almost straight. It's but if we do this, then we can see just how well the clip is, because it actually raises up a bit. It goes up and then it comes out almost straight, but you see here, if you bend it, you can see just how much of a clip there is going. But it is almost a Skinner blade. Well, it is a Skinner blade. That's what these knives were used for. They were a hunting knife. They were used for skinning and such, and also for cleaning fish and everything else. That's what the knife is actually designed for cleaning game. Makes a great steak knife though, so there you got that. And talk about that as a nice folding steak knife, and definitely a big chunk of a knife. It's 10 inches overall when you get it all the way open. The handle is about 5.5 inches and a 4.5 inch blade with a 4.25 inch cutting edge there. You see a lot of fingerprints on here. Like I said, I have been using and carrying this knife for going on a week now, and it's going to be going right back into my pocket because I plan on ordering another one of these. I'm going to have one for the collection and one for the pocket. And that's not something I would normally do with a Rough Ryder Reserve knife because, well, $65 for this knife. Not a cheap price, but I think it's well worth the $65 that you would pay for it. Well, I'm going to pay for it twice because I want one for my collection because, well, I collect powder horns, and this is something that is right up my alley for collecting. If you're in the powder horns, I think you're really going to like this knife quite a bit. If you're thinking about trying out a powder horn to see if you like them or not, then I would say grab this one first and see how you like this one. If you like this one and you really, or if you love this one, then you might want to consider this one because, well, they're both powder horns. They both kind of feel the same in the pocket. This one has a more substantial horn down at the end here, which also means a little bit better as a fish knocker. So if you're trying to put a fish out of its misery, you also got a good little tool right there at the end for doing that, because that's part of what I like about these knives, especially the powder horn on these. The nice sharp point there, you can actually draw blood with that. This would definitely hurt a skull if you whack it with it. So one thing I should also mention before I leave here, because people are going to see it and they're going to complain. See that? That is very common among these types of knives, that the blade has a little bit of play there, a little wobble there. So I can say definitely, yeah, it's right down the middle, or it's favoring the left, or it's favoring the right, and that's because of the long blade on these things. But when you open it up, there's no wobble in the blade. And you will see that with just about any toothpick knife, that there is wobble in the blade. It is just a fact of life. It does, like this one, rests pretty much down the middle. I'll be talking about this one in the future. You also see that on this look wheel. See the blade wobble there? And even on this Navaja. I gotta open this up a little bit because what you also have with Navajas is the blade is actually resting on the back spring. But you can see there, the blade wobbles. But when you open it, it's locked and it's closed, or it's locked and it doesn't have the wobble. So just one thing to consider when you get this knife. Yeah, you're going to see that. Don't worry about it. It's typical. They might have modernized it, but there's some things that are still one of the things that is common with the large powder horn knives. You have the blade that moves when it's in the handle. Okay, with that said, I'm going to move on, do a couple slides, and get the specs out on this thing. Hope you enjoyed it. let me take just a second to thank you once again for dropping by and spending a few minutes here at Knife Chats with Tobias. I really do appreciate it, and I do appreciate any comments that you leave. So please remember to give me that thumbs up, and also don't forget to subscribe and ring that notification bell so you'll know when the next episode is up and running. Thanks again for dropping by. Really do appreciate your time here.